Kia ora, Lara here, and I'm bringing to you day 8 of my 20 days of Cutfiles with Confessions of a Paper Addict. Link below to people who are working on these challenges, and 20 days, Christmas or summer themes. Today's theme that I've picked to work on is lights, and I grabbed some photos of my daughter setting up our Christmas tree lights last year. I'm actually going to use 2 Cutfiles today. I'm using a little sparkle, which is sort of that oblong one that I've cut with the diamonds sort of out of it, and also disco ball, and I'm going to use both of these just sort of to balance it out with some lights on both sides. You can see there the left and right sort of spread, and I've grabbed some holographic paper. Now there was 2 different colors, and I ended up going with the one that I think is called Sunbeam. I just really liked how the yellow light sort of stood out, and it sort of reflects the Christmas tree photo, one of the Christmas tree photos anyway. So I've just measured the white cut file that I've trimmed, that I cut down to size, and I'm making the holographic paper 1/4 of an inch smaller on 2 sides than the original one on the top, so that you won't see it peeking out the edges when I put a little sparkle cut file on top of it. So I'm just adding some glue on the back of it, and I'm going to position that so that the holographic paper sits inside the edge of that, and I'm going to mount both of those onto some of the lights paper that I found from a collection last year. The collection there with the lights in the background is one that is still available from close to my heart, but it is an older collection, so it's kind of while stocks last, and it is probably in the clearance section, I think, or online only. So check out there. So I'm putting some liquid glass on the back of the disco ball, and I'm going to stick that down on the holographic paper. Now, because the holographic paper is shiny, I'm going to give that a little bit more time to dry before I actually cut around it. And I'm just pressing some of the sides down so that it's going to get a really good adherence on there. So now while I'm doing that, I'm going to have a think or a look at how I'm going to mount the photos and the other bits and pieces that I'd already sort of pulled aside to go with this page. So I'm going to put the tree on the right hand side, and I'm going to put the other 2 photos onto the left hand side, and I'm not sure exactly where, because once I've cut I need to trim down the holographic paper and have a play around with the placement of the disco ball. But I'm now just going to mat the sort of, I guess, the main photo or the feature photo with some of cardstock and some paper. And so I've just stuck that down, and there's some more pattern paper that I'm going to stick on that, and I do end up, I think, choosing another pattern paper as well to mat that on later on, just to help it jump out from that background a little bit more. The holographic paper does look a little bit greeny in the background there, and there's my daughter giving me a cup of tea. She was thinking that she could put the tea right in front of the phone where I was doing the recording, but she decided to be nice and just tuck it in beside. Thanks, Alicia. So now I'm trimming around the disco ball cut file, and I sort of have the scissors on a bit of an angle so that you don't have those bits cut out. I was scrapbooking with some friends in the weekend, and one commented how she draws around the shapes and then cuts just inside the lines, whereas I tend to stick it down and cut it. But however you can get the cut files working for you, go for it. So I've got another black chipboard element that I'm going to pull in there up to the top right, but now I've just grabbed some scrap white daisy cardstock, and I'm going to mat the other 2 photographs on that white daisy cardstock as well. So just stuck them down and cutting around them. I couldn't quite put my hands on where I had my bigger pair of scissors, so just using the little ones in the meantime. So I'm going to use this blue stripy paper in the background for these 2 photos on the left hand side, and just again trimming around those so they're kind of double matted, and the blue just helps them to stand out a little bit from that background. So I've also got another piece of paper over there to the right with the hearts on one side, and on the other side it's got the Christmas trees, and I end up using the Christmas tree side to mat the other photo onto. So here I am using the heart side. I'm going to cut around those. Handy that I found the big scissors again, because they did make that cutting much easier, and yeah, they just need a little bit more of a photo mat. And I'm going to stick down that, and I decide I want to take out the piece at the top, and I'll show you what I do with that a little bit later on. And now I'm going to stick down that disco ball, but the long thin bit at the top I decide does need a little bit of liquid glass, so sticking it from the bottom to the top and placing that down on the page. So now is when I decide that I'm actually going to use that tree paper and cutting around it so that it's got a nice bit of a border and sticking it down. And I'm just about ready to put the photos onto the page. There we go. Find a nice position where I can see that gorgeous cut file with the holographic paper peeking through to put down. And I decide to make these photos quite nicely lined up, because inside the photos themselves there's a lot of when you're untangling the Christmas lights each year, there's a lot of mess in there, so I didn't feel I needed the photos sort of messing it up or on an angle, because there was mess in the pictures themselves. So I found a little bit of the Gilt Gloss acrylic spray by Danni Visser, and I'm just splattering that in some various places around the layout. And I am going to add some other sparkle bits to it. When you're looking at lights or talking about lights, you do need a good amount of sparkle on them. So I'm just adding some journaling in here about the Christmas tree lights and how they remind me of the star that God provided to lead the wise men to where they found Jesus in the Bible records of Jesus' birth. So happy with how that's looking, but I do just want to add a title and add some more embellishments. I'm not sure exactly where I'm going to put the title at this point, and play around with a couple of places, but end up popping it just above the journaling there, and I'm really happy with how that turned out. I found it was sort of some gold lettering in a box that I had, and it worked quite nicely with the holographic paper as well. So just placing that in there. I was thankful that all the letters I needed were there. Quite often I go to do titles and I'm missing the letters that I actually need, which is where stamps and things come in nicely. So now I'm just putting some dots of liquid glass around the layout, and on each of these I'm going to stick some sequins. So bear with me while I do this on the camera and didn't cut this point off. So I'm just placing those around. What is it for you that makes it feel more like Christmas? Because a big part of it for me is having the tree twinkling in the lounge at night time. And we've got some nice star lights that we normally put up on the window as well. And just those little things, along with the smell of Christmas cakes cooking, Christmas lilies, and this year ours are they're probably about a week or two off starting to flower, but I'm really looking forward to that scent going through our house as well. So I sort of play around with that ribbon idea up the top of that Christmas tree banner or pennant or dovetail tag. I'm not sure exactly what that is, and I found some sort of rose gold or gold thread ribbon that I'm going to put in there. But before I do that, I'm just popping some gold gems at various points around the page, again just with that smattering of lights look through it. So now I'm going to get the ribbon and trim it down, but before I do that I'm just punching a hole in the top so it goes right through the layout, because I'm adding that texture with the ribbon, and it is going to peek through or peek up and out of the album. So every time I go to do this I always have to test which side's going to have the ribbon around that sort of loop bit that goes to the front. So I'm not very logical when it comes to thinking like that, but there's the ribbon, and I'm just trimming off the two pieces and adjusting them a little bit. I'm looking forward to seeing how this looks in the album peeking up over the top. Now this month you can get 25% off at the Confessions of a Paper Addict store on Etsy, so head over, check those out, and also check out the other layouts created with today's focus as well. Thanks for watching.